Hey guys, what's going on? Sincere here with whoissincere.com, Anon Radio Live, and the All Rights Matter show. Want to bring you another story here regarding a case that's been happening out of Ottawa, Tennessee. That's very shortly here outside of Chattanooga, where I live, and NBC here in Chattanooga has been covering it relatively extensively. I cannot play this video for you that you see on the screen right now, but I am going to leave a link below. I absolutely suggest that you watch this video. This is the mother's own words, the mother of the victim. This is the situation. High school, high school team, the Ottawa high school basketball team went on it. They were on an away trip, and they were staying in a cabin. And some of the guys were staying in a room that was, downstairs in the basement area of the cabin. Now, the younger basketball players that had came on the team had, enjoyed being on the team earlier in the year, but not until November of 2015 did they start feeling uncomfortable. November or December of 2015, because the football season was over for the high school, and the football players, some of those football players, the seniors, came to the basketball team. When they came to the basketball team, they brought a hazing culture to the basketball team that had all of these younger players, the freshmen and sophomores, scared, if you will. So in here, in this story, it even says where, their testimony on the stand of where one of the things, here you go, I'll actually go to it. One victim testified, when you leave a freshman by himself, they're going to do something to him. Okay? Now, I'm going to get a little bit deeper into what actually happened in a second here, but I just want to show you. Another reason, one victim said, how could a person or a man tell another man someone had been playing with your butt? This is what's going on. So we had these teenagers that were literally frightened. They were frightened to talk about what was going on. They couldn't talk to any adults about it, but they were going through a process from the seniors, where the seniors would come in and they would, they would haze the younger freshman and sophomore. I'm actually scrolling through trying to find a part for you. Okay, there you go. So the detective here that was actually, let me just let you know what happened based off that last comment. There was 4 victims total that were assaulted, okay? They were held down against their will, and they were assaulted with a pool cue, okay? There was a pool table in the basement of this cabin. Now, when they were assaulted, the pool cue ripped through the jeans of the one person who was, protesting not wanting to go through this kind of activity. And he was, the one most strongly protesting it. And so the guy got more aggressive with him. The pool cue ripped through his jeans, which the assault happened. The young teen testified for about a total of 30 seconds, which then all the team members ran away and said they had to go get the coach. And that's probably because the child was then injured. He was taken to the emergency room. He was treated, released from the emergency room, which he then later came back. He collapsed and then went, actually, I believe that's just above this. He collapsed, and then he had to go back in. There it is. Once back at the cabin, the victim said he collapsed in pain and had to have emergency surgery to repair his torn bladder. So this is, this was a horrific experience for a young man to be held down, a pool cue to be, excuse my language, shoved up his ass, and if you have children, you understand what I feel right now. I just could not imagine that happening to my child, and the fury and the anger as a parent that you would feel over a situation like this. So, what happens? Well, the detective that was involved in the situation actually testified on stand, and he downplayed the situation, completely downplayed the situation. He pretty much testified that, in a nutshell, and it was a big thing out here. I don't know if it hit national media like that, probably not with all this election stuff going on, but he pretty much testified that, well, this wasn't really a rape incident, and it was just a matter of horseplay that turned into aggravated rape, by accident. But the very nature of it wasn't a rape incident or anything like that. I don't agree with him. There are many people that don't agree with him that are asking him to now step down. You know, by the wording of his testimony, he has set a new precedent. Actually, this officer, because of some of the people that have called him out, he's actually filed a lawsuit. But Detective Burns has set a new precedent for rape victims, if you will, by giving testimony that supports the perpetrators of the crime instead of the victim. And just really, really a dangerous, slippery slope that Detective Burns is going down here. And I believe, in my opinion, this speaks more to the protection culture, if you will. And I'm not going to make this a racial situation, but I am going to state that I do believe that the perpetrators of the crime were indeed white males, from everything that I've found out so far. And I do happen to know that the victim of the crime is an African American male. Now, whether that plays any kind of role in the judge's decision making process, whether the father or the mother has any kind of sway uh, with the city, or with any of the public officials, that's up for debate, and obviously for investigation as well. So what you will hear this mother say is she is absolutely stunned and shocked, um, you know, by what's been going on in the courtroom and by some of the verdicts of the courtroom. One of the 17-year-old players, who was the main person in the incident, he just recently turned 18, and the judge has decided to try him as a juvenile, because the judge believes that this is an isolated incident, that this has possibility, no chances of ever reoccurring again, really, and that this offender is a low level offender. Okay, this is a very ugly situation we're talking about, guys. A very ugly situation. So I really feel for the teenager in this situation, as he was, you know, come on, man. He was raped. Anytime a pool cue rips through your clothing and goes into, into your butt, into your back area, that's a sexual crime. That's an aggravated sexual crime. And kids that held him down, they're just as responsible. It's not like they didn't know what was going on. They had done this to other teammates, and I don't believe the pool cue went through their pants as far as what's been stated so far. But this one particular kid, he was, more aggressive in saying, no, I don't want this to happen to me, and I'm not comfortable with this kind of hazing. And it's even stated that this child tried to sleep in another room, in a locked room, where he could, even in a closet where he can get away from the other senior team members who were instigating the bullying. So, he was definitely fearful, if you will. And since this incident has happened, you know, he's been in a mental state that hasn't been healthy. He is in counseling right now. And I just believe that it's a terrible tragedy that a detective would downplay the what happened to this child, at the hands of another child. Now, like I said, I don't know if there's some favoritism going on in this little small community here. Ottawa is not a big place. It's kind of one of those places where everybody knows everybody. So I believe that there's more investigating that needs to be done as far as why the detective is actually giving his testimony the way he is, and also as far as the judge deciding to try this 17-year-old who was very close to 18. He just turned 18. To try the 17-year-old as a juvenile instead of an adult that he should be tried as for this crime. Now, do I believe that this 18-year-old teenager should be given, a maximum sentence of 10 years or anything like that? No, I don't believe that. But I do believe that he should be tried as an adult because he was so close to being an adult. He understood the gravity of his actions. It's not like he didn't understand what was going on. They understand that hazing is wrong. And on top of that, it's just because of what actually happened to the victim. We're talking about a life that is permanently damaged. There's a section of this young man's life where he's supposed to be going through high school as a normal young man, enjoying his, studying well in his basketball years and possibly going to a college. Now he's going to be faced with, the task of hiding his identity that this ever happened to him for the rest of his life because of the embarrassing nature of what happened to him. This is something, and then not to mention the physical trauma of what happened to him and the recovery. He was out of school for a while. He's been going back every week now to get checkups to make sure that he's healing well. So, to have this kind of surgery and to undergo hours of surgery for an injury this extensive, it just goes to show how aggressive the attack was. And for the judge to say that he doesn't think that this will ever happen again, I, I'm not so certain about that one. I don't know what's going to happen with this young man's life, but I do understand one thing: when it's this aggressive, we should be talking about filing the proper kind of charges because we're talking about a child younger than now this adult who will be affected for the rest of his high school years and for the rest of his adult life. So this is something where I do believe, I absolutely do believe this 18-year-old now should be put on one of these lists that they have now for a sexual crime. Trying him as a juvenile will allow him to not be placed on this list and to circumvent justice, pretty much, just to be honest with you. So this definitely needs to be looked into. I wanted to give you guys an update on this whole story. I haven't really covered, I've been following it, but I haven't really covered it to let you guys know what's going on out there. But this is what we're dealing with in our country. This is what our children are up against in school. When you talk about hazing and then you talk about the legal system, this is how deep it gets. I want you to go see this video. Do not pass up this video. Listen to the mother's words. This is a very good investigation, again, done by WRCB, NBC in Chattanooga. They do a pretty good job reporting the news, and I really I like their investigators that are on the ground. They ask the tough questions and they get the tough interviews. So that's always something that's respectable in the local community. But this is something you don't want to pass up. I will leave a link all the way at the bottom in the description section below this video. Make sure you check that link out so that you can listen to this. But just wanted to give you guys an update what's going on out there in the police departments as far as how they're testifying, and the judicial system as far as how the judges are looking at cases like this, and as far as how the victims are affected for the rest of their lives. I believe that this is for lack of better words, I believe that this is what I would call a privilege case. I can't really call it a race case. I'm not 100% sure on the race of the perpetrator of the crime, but from everything that I've looked at so far, I do believe that he is a white male. So with that being said, this has many angles to it, but fortunately for the victims, their identities can't be released, or will not be released, and can't be released. Even knowing them, it's just the wrong thing to do. But unfortunately, also without releasing them, you also, it's harder to tie in what the connections are to the parents with the community and the prosecutor and the judges and the police department, and whether there's any protection involved, because this is really an extreme circumstance where this kid underwent hours of surgery, and and of course an extensive recovery, and an even more extensive mental recovery. And for this to just be treated as kind of a misdemeanor offense is, I mean, it's just completely gross negligence, if you will. And it's, a way that it's just something that it touches to the soul of any parent that's out there. If you have a child, you want justice. In this situation right here, there's no other words, there's no other thing that you can seek for, because the activity has already happened. You want justice. And seeking juvenile type of charges for this kind of crime is not justice in any way, especially when the main perpetrator of the crime was set to turn 18 merely within days. So that's what's going on, guys. So make sure you give a like to this video. Make sure you share. Make sure you go to the description section, download the All Rights Matter app so you can stay up with all my videos I upload, as well as the articles I report on and my radio show. There's also a donation button below, guys. If you enjoyed me covering stories like this that, are truthful stories that are out there, I'll keep covering them until the day I die. So, make sure you guys donate and support, and I really appreciate your attention and your time. As always, guys, stay alert, stay alive.